Welcome back, everybody, to the Whiskey Jedi podcast. My name is Jake Berlin. Thank you so much for joining me on this Thursday evening as I get back into the swing of things right before the new year. Hello to everyone out there. If you are watching live, I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat. Whether you want to comment along, totally up to you. But I would love to say, hey, hello. Thank you so much for joining me. What's up, Ed, John? I appreciate you guys very, very much for being here tonight. Very excited. This is a cool show. This is a very, very cool show for many reasons. Not just because of the Star Wars aspect of everything, but the whiskey side of it all. If you're finding this podcast, randomly on YouTube, or if it's via Instagram or this new TikTok thing that I'm trying, first of all, I appreciate you. Thank you. But the way that the show works here is I pick topics that are 99% of the time Star Wars, pair them with a whiskey that I'm either trying for the very first time or just enjoying a glass of, and talking. And sometimes I have guests, sometimes I have myself, and I chat along with people who are watching. So hopefully that you find this and, you adventure in on this show. I'd love to have you guys along for the ride. I think 2023 is going to be a big deal for many reasons. Movies are going to be a very big deal, obviously. I think Star Wars is going to be a very big deal, and that's what we're discussing tonight. We're previewing all of the watching content, I should say, when it comes to Star Wars in 2023. That means I won't be discussing Jedi Survivor tonight, just because I have not watched or have not played, Jedi Fallen Order. I haven't finished it yet, and I know everyone out there is probably kicking and screaming at me right now. My controller broke for my console, so I don't have an option to play that just yet. I plan on playing it. Haven't gotten there. I will, I promise. So we're going to be talking about the 4 major projects that are coming out on Disney Plus in 2023, which I'm very, very excited about. But as far as the whiskey side of it goes, this is a very cool episode for one specific reason. I was gifted this whiskey from the distillery itself. If you paid attention to the channel just a few weeks ago, I did a video about a care package I was sent by Green Brier Distillery out in Nashville, Tennessee. Very, very thankful for the gifts that they sent me. 2 bottles of whiskey, which was 1 reserve bourbon, which we'll be talking about here tonight, as well as their sour mash, which is a very highly rated sour mash. Some t-shirts, notebooks, etc. Very, very thankful again. Just an incredible experience to talk with them and get the opportunity to do this. So tonight we're going to be reviewing, trying, tasting, the whole 9 when it comes to this reserve bourbon. I have not opened it yet. It's brand new. It's been sitting on my table ever since I received it. There it is, the Nelson Bros Reserve Bourbon. This is very highly rated, guys. Very, very highly rated. Let me go and bring it up real quick. I want to make sure that I get this correct. But I am pretty sure it was rated in the top 10 for Whiskey Advocate, the most exciting whiskeys of 2022. Boom. Number 10 with a score of 93. That's awesome. That is awesome. And it's among some very, very good whiskeys. You got Westward in there. You got Blue Note, Limavady, which is a great Irish whiskey. Bushmills, obviously single malt, some scotches in there. There's a ton of whiskeys on this list, and this is among the greats. So I'm very, very excited. It's been talked up to me ever since I received it. For those of you who watch, Dom, my buddy Dom, he actually informed me that it was in the top 10. I don't know if he's watching or not. Dom, if you're watching, say hello. I didn't know this until he texted me, and now I'm just like, oh, okay, well, this is kind of a big deal. So yeah, Nelson Bros Reserve Bourbon. It's one of their, I believe it's their highest rye whiskey, I want to say. It's 107 proof. So it's a big boy. It's a big boy. And I'm very excited. Again, hails out of Nashville. And a big shout out to Stephanie from Green Brier for hooking this up for me. I really, really appreciate this. But before I try this, I'm going to open it, pour myself a glass, and we'll talk about it. I've mentioned it a dozen times, not just today alone, but social media, the show already maybe 2 or 3 times. Star Wars for 2023 is big. It's a big deal. No, there's no movies, unfortunately, which is always a little bit of a disappointment. But there are 4 pretty big time shows, and say what you will about animation. If you don't watch Star Wars animation, you're missing out. And I think the Bad Batch is just as important as any of the others because of where it kind of lies in the timeline. That comes out in a week, by the way. So that'll be the first thing that is kind of talked about, not just here, but on the show's Apocalypse, POV probably. There he is. What's up, Dom? Thank you for informing me about this, buddy. I appreciate it. So yeah, Bad Batch is coming out here in just a week. That's going to be, I think the first season was 16 episodes, maybe 14. It's probably going to be around the same. And then in March, we have Mando. March 1st, we have Mandalorian season 3, which cannot wait for that show. We're finally diving into everything Mandalore. It's what I've been waiting so long in my life as a Star Wars fan to dive into Mandalore and the culture of Mandalorians. And we've done it a little bit with the show, obviously, right? We've gotten Bo-Katan and Boba Fett and some other Mandos, but now we're actually going there, which is very exciting as a Star Wars fan. Ray, please do not bark right now. It's just a car. Andy, it Fireball is disgusting. I'm sorry. It's just gross. It's not a fun time. But to each their own. I respect it. I respect it. It's just not for me. It's just not for me. So I'm sorry. So look, yeah, Mandalorian season 3, big deal. Ahsoka, look, everyone here knows my feelings on Ahsoka, not just the character, but the show. I mean, goodness, right? See you later, Andy. Ahsoka is going to set, I'm not going to say it's going to set a new bar for me, but it's something I've wanted for a very long time, right? And I think for a lot of people, Star Wars Rebel fans especially, right, we're waiting for that sequel story. Where does that final scene go between Ahsoka and Sabine? So yeah, that's going to be incredible. And I've talked about it here a long time. We've talked about it enough on social media, but it became quote unquote official last week. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is playing Hera, which don't even get me started. I did a whole show on her playing Hera. That shows my love for her playing Hera. I don't need to say anything more on it. And you see the smile on my face. But then we're also getting a Skeleton Crew. Jon Watts' Skeleton Crew, which is going to be super cool. Goonies in space in the Star Wars galaxy. Jude Law starring in it. And there might actually be a lot more connection to that show with other properties than we originally thought. So we're going to get into all that. But I'm going to pour myself a glass. I'm going to taste. I'm not going to talk right now. But I will preview where this distillery kind of comes from, the background. I'm just going to read it right off the back of the bottle. What's up, Moose? Mr. Mark Haas in the chat. Thank you so much, Mark. Gordon, hello. Andy, Curtis, John, Haskell, Dom. Appreciate you all. Thank you for joining me. Wingblade. What's up, buddy, if you're still there? So real quick, right off the back of the bottle here, it says, siblings don't always see eye to eye, but Andy and Charlie Nelson are of one mind about the whiskey that bears their name. Their artful blend draws from their choicest lots to create a robust high rye bourbon graced by notes of dark cherry, spice, and vanilla. I'm telling you, it's got a lot to live up to now that I know it's on the Whiskey Advocate top 10. Definitely, well, I'm not going to say the highest rated. This is just a yearly thing that they do. But currently the highest rated in Whiskey Advocate because it's the only one on my rack that's on the list. We'll see if it lives up to the taste. So I'm going to go and pour this. Chat, fire away at the questions. We can go in order here. Bad Batch, Mando, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew. Or I can answer questions. We can just talk things out. I would love to hear what you guys are most excited about. Not just shows, but maybe some specifics here when it comes to these Star Wars projects. Oh, that sound. Great color, by the way. Great color. Okay. While I taste, let's just go ahead and start with Bad Batch. I think Bad Batch is the one we can kind of get out of the way because it is coming in a week. Look at that color. To all my audio listeners, I'm currently showing the whiskey on screen. It's a Beautiful color. I chose my Yoda glass tonight just because we're going to be talking about Grogu at some point. So yeah, Bad Batch. Look, this show, if you have not watched Bad Batch, first of all, go ahead and watch it. Do yourself a favor and watch it. It took a little while to kind of catch itself and put its feet underneath it. But I think towards the middle of the season, it really started to understand what it was. There's some episodes here and there that we can do without, but for the most part, the characters are fantastic. I mean, it's Star Wars animation. How can you say no to Star Wars animation? It's not. Star Wars animation is, in my opinion, the most consistent thing we've ever gotten when it comes to Star Wars, anyway. Maybe ever. I mean, that argument can be made, right? Clone Wars, Rebels, whatever we want to say about Resistance. I thought Resistance, especially in its second season, found its footing very well. And Bad Batch. And we can throw stuff like Visions in there as well. It's just consistent throughout the board, constantly good. And they just find ways to make these shows great. And Bad Batch was different because it was something new. It was in an era that we haven't really touched on yet. But I think in the second season, it's going to change the game for these characters in a lot of ways. Hold on, let me try this real quick. I love whiskey, guys. This is so... Wow. Wow. So this is weird. This is a weird... So when it comes to whiskey, and mainly sometimes like wines, you have a nose, and then you have a taste. The nose is the smell, obviously, and the taste is eventually when you taste it, it's pretty self-explanatory. The vanilla I can taste or smell. It has a little bit of an oaky smell, but there's something sweet in there that I can't put my finger on. Not that it's bad, but there's something sweet sitting there, that I can smell right away. But the thing is, and I've talked about this many times, when you taste it, it tastes different than what you smell. Cherry, apples, spice, a great kick, bite, if you want to say bite. That's a very good whiskey. I'm telling you, I'm going to have to look up that sweet smell. I cannot put my finger on it. Okay. I'm going to get back to that here in a little bit. Bad Batch. Curtis has a question. Did they tease Omega being force sensitive last year? Can't remember. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Star Wars fans, and I put myself in this category because I'm a Star Wars fan, we go overboard sometimes with, oh my God, are they force sensitive? There are times when we can talk about every character being force sensitive. When it comes to Omega, I do think that at some point in the season, and I don't remember every single episode, but there were moments in the season where I was like, oh, that's kind of a nod. Or that's a tease, or that could turn into something. So yes, the answer is yes. But I personally wouldn't want to see it. I don't think at this point, I think we are past her being revealed to be force sensitive. I mean, it's possible because we don't know exactly what cloning DNA she came from, right? I know that she's technically the same batch as the clones and Boba, but there can also be something mixed in there that we don't know, and that could be touched on because we are getting into the cloners. Season 1 ended with, and I'm forgetting the name of the mountain. Excuse me. I apologize. I'm sure Andy or someone will say something about the name. Mount Tantus, I want to say. I could be wrong, Mount Tantus. We're getting into Kaminoans, and we saw that we're getting back into cloning. So there could be a reveal of who she came from. Personally, when I sit down or when I kind of step back and look, I think we're past a point of revealing her to be force sensitive. Andy, I'm not here, but yeah, Tantus. Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it. What's up, PLD? What's up, buddy? So for me, if they revealed her to be force sensitive all of a sudden, it would have to be in a very good way, personally. I like that she's taking after the batch, that she's taking after, Hunter and Echo and all of these characters that don't have the ability to do force, to have the force. I would much rather her be a clone-like character, let's just say it, a Boba Fett-like character that fits in with the Bad Batch rather than kind of like this force-sensitive being that they're almost hiding or don't know about. That's just me. It could go in any way. And it also is kind of that whole question of like, okay, well, if she was force sensitive, she was in a time where Palpatine, Vader, the Empire, they were hunting Jedi. And through all of these stories we've seen over the past couple of years, they're not just hunting Jedi, but they're hunting force sensitive people. People that may not even know they have the force. I mean, remember that scene in Obi-Wan where O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s wife, she was hiding, not using her abilities, and they just hunted her down. So, okay, if she was announced to be force sensitive, then in my head I go, okay, well, why wasn't she hunted down? What did she do? Like, where did she end up? Where has she been this whole time? Did she die? Did she go down to hiding? We just never heard from her again. So for me, it just makes more sense that she's kind of in line with much more of the Bad Batch characters rather than someone who has the force. That's just me personally. PLD, I think it would be interesting if she is force sensitive, but she chooses not to use it, almost like she's ashamed of it because she wants to be a Bad Batcher. That's also a huge possibility. That is a huge possibility, but at the same time, what if she doesn't know what the force is? And how so okay, say we did do that. And she has no idea what this ability is. Obviously, Hunter and Wrecker and all of them know what it is. They fought alongside Anakin and Obi-Wan. We saw that in Clone Wars Season 7. They know who the Jedi are. What would they do? That's my question. How would they handle that? It just, again, it leaves me wondering where she's been this whole time. Like, is her fate sealed to die if she is force sensitive? Or does she just goes into hiding and we never hear from her again? Because she's young. I mean, I don't know her exact age, but let's just put a round number on it. Let's say she's 10 years old, right? When a New Hope rolls around, 30. So she's around Kylo's age, Kylo Ren, right? He's kind of in that range or excuse me, not Kylo's age, Han Solo's age. He's around that age in A New Hope. I would just be very interested in where she is. That's all. I'm not saying, like, again, it's Filoni and the whole animation crew. Like, they've rarely done you wrong when it comes to Star Wars animation. So 99% of me says, oh, I'm going to love what they do with it. But right now, not seeing it, my question is, okay, well, where has she been? Not to say they can't fill those answers in. It's very possible. Who knows? Maybe she could show up in Ahsoka. I don't know. It's possible. Gordon, do you think we'll find out if Omega has an ability like the rest of the Bad Batch? She'll have to be the same age as Boba Fett. Yeah, same age as Boba Fett. Gordon, I think she's younger than Boba Fett. Because Boba Fett at the end of the Clone Wars series is like a full-blown teenager. I think Boba was definitely born before her. He was the first. So yeah, she's younger than Boba Fett. Gordon, I think you've hit it on the head. I think that's much more of a possibility than her being force sensitive. And just for terminology, let's call it a defect, because that's technically what they call them. They call it a defect, right, with the Bad Batch. I think that she's probably going to have some type of ability like the Bad Batch rather than being force sensitive. But I also wouldn't care if she didn't have an ability. She's clearly getting badass at this light arrow that she has, right? This laser arrow. I think that is just as much of an ability as it is with the others. We'll see. It's definitely the biggest question going into it. I mean, after season 1 and the destruction of Camino, or at least that base on Camino, that facility, I should say, and Mount Tantus being revealed, we're obviously diving into that, but it now leaves our characters with a wide open space to do what they want. And the trailer teases them kind of doing the bounty hunting ways, right? And doing missions for money and kind of living their life, which is kind of what I want to see from them. Like, that's exactly what I want to see. I want to see them doing bounty hunting missions. Not be like the scumbag bounty hunters per se, but that's just what I want from them. I think that's such a cool idea. I want it tying into like the larger universe and everything, but I also do want to see them kind of just it's a terrible way to explain it, but the kind of villain of the week storyline. Right? Like in 20 years ago TV shows, each episode was a solo episode of telling one story of the quote unquote villain of the week. Smallville did it with Superman for the first number of seasons. A show like Criminal Minds did it for a very long time successfully. I would love to see the Bad Batch do that. Like, I want to see the Empire and clones and all these characters, but I also kind of do want to see a villain of the week type of story. I think that'd be really cool. But again, I wouldn't hate it if they don't. And Star Wars animation is just a huge plus. Like, I love it. It can't go wrong at this point. Okay, let's quickly talk a little bit about this reserve bourbon before I dive into some Mandalorian, because I do want to talk about Mandalorian. So I pulled it up. I want to. So this is the nose. This is according to Breaking Bourbon, very very popular website here when it comes to whiskey reviews. So I talked about that sweet flavor that I was smelling off the tip that I could not put my finger on. And this is what Breaking Bourbon said. The nose opens with creamy aromas of caramel. Makes sense. Most bourbons do have that. Marshmallow, vanilla, and a touch of butterscotch. So actually a number of sweet flavors are in this bourbon. I was never going to put my finger on any of those. I'll be honest. There was no way I was going to exactly say, oh yeah, that's marshmallow. There's no chance in the world. It continues by saying, underneath our sense of charred and aged oak, which I got, a sprinkle of baking spice, which I touched on, round things out, despite coming across as surprisingly light considering the proof. The scents play well together, a nice opening to the sip. And then the palate here, the tasting, says sweet notes kicks things off in a form of light brown sugar. Ooh, I did not taste that. And cinnamon and baked apples. So I touched on the apples. A subtle rye and peppercorn blend adds a nice spice dimension to balance things out. Like the nose, charred and aged oak make a showing, but aren't the center of attention. Straightforward to the point, it doesn't disappoint. Yeah, I'll say it is a very, very well-rounded whiskey. It is. It has pretty much everything you expect from a bourbon. Or everything you want from a bourbon, I should say. Sweet, spice, oak, that kind of smoky flavor, and it has a bite towards the end. Or I guess kind of technically towards the start, but towards the end. It is a very strong whiskey. Not in the sense of like powerful, but I'm saying like it's a very good whiskey. Strong, great, like awesome. That's what I mean by strong. And I can see why people are talking about this whiskey as much as they are. And why it's ranked on Whiskey Advocate. I think what the crew over at Nelson, or at Green Brier, Nelson Brothers Green Brier, I think they figured it out. I really do. I think they figured it out to have a whiskey that is going to be a staple for a very long time. It is definitely something that I would love to continue to have in my arsenal of whiskeys. I believe I saw that it runs at $60, which, it may, I guess, compared to your average whiskey, it's about $20+ a little more, but it's worth every penny. This isn't something you're just going to throw back with the buddies on, on a Friday, Saturday constantly. This is something that you're going to open to enjoy, kicking your feet up to watch a game or something. To open for, you have your best friend over or something, right? Like this is a high valued whiskey. I can see why people like it so much. And it makes me even more thankful that I was sent this by them. Like, this is awesome to think that that they gifted me such a excellent whiskey to be able to try and taste and have on this show and to talk to you guys about. Very thankful, very grateful. This is really, really cool. So guys, look, Nelson Brothers Reserve Bourbon. It's a high rye, which is where that bite comes from. I've talked about it before on the channel. Ryes have a lot more of a bite than bourbons technically do, but so this is still a bourbon, but because it's rye, it's a lot more of a rye based. It's going to have a lot more of a bite. 107.8 proof, so basically a 108 proof, which is excellent. Green Brier Distillery out of Nashville. This is awesome. This is fantastic. This is the bottle. Great looking bourbon again. Very strong, classic bourbon bottle. I love it. Can't wait to talk about it more. But I also have another whiskey of theirs to try. I'm not going to do it on this show. I'm going to do it on another episode. But I have their sour mash to try, which I do not have a sour mash in my arsenal. So that one's going to be interesting. Very, very interesting. So yes, go check this out, guys. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. It is definitely something you should check out. Any whiskey lovers out there, Moose, if you're still here, man, check it out. Nelson Bros, as Siri for some reason clicks up on my phone. John, I know that you're a whiskey guy as well. Anybody else who's watching who enjoys a glass of whiskey, check out this whiskey, Nelson Brothers Reserve Bourbon. Gotta try it. Gotta try it. Oh, so good. All right, let's get back into Star Wars. Mandalorian. Oh, real quick. I want to bring up Mark's comment here. I tried the Offerman. Oh God, I can never pronounce this word. Lagavulin. 8 year on Christmas. That's a campfire right there. Okay. Offerman. I'm gonna pull that up right now. Actually, let's see. Probably just completely butchered that name. I can never pronounce it correctly. Ooh, it's a single malt Scotch too. God, this looks good. Ooh, that looks good. Moose, I'm gonna have to have you back on the show so we can try this. Yeah, Dom, you're a rye guy, dude. A bourbon that hits like a rye, that just gets me. Yeah, Dom, you would love this, and I gotta have you over so you can try this. I know. So we're actually going to the Kings game tomorrow, but I won't be able to bring it to the game, obviously. So I'll have to have you over and try it sometime. Flicking Real, Jesse, I believe this is you. Sean was in the chat earlier, so I don't think it's Sean. What's your favorite Star Wars ride at Galaxy's Edge? It's easily Rise of the Resistance. No question. I've said it before. Rise of the Resistance at Disneyland is the single greatest ride Disney's ever made. And that not because I'm a Star Wars fan. I think it's technically sound. It has the story that you want from a ride. It has the ride aspect from a ride, and it's incredibly interactive. Not in the sense of something like Toy Story Mania or Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters, but characters are talking and you're involved as the passenger, right? You're not just like watching it like Haunted Mansion or The Little Mermaid. You're part of the story. I think it's the single greatest ride Disney's ever created. And that can be seen as biased because I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm also a huge Disney fan. Like, I've been going to Disneyland for a very long time. My family, we went as kids and teenagers, and Gabby and I, we try to go once a year, if not more. It's just it's our thing. We love going to Disneyland. So I'm looking at it from an avid Disneyland, adventurer. I think Rise of the Resistance is the single greatest ride that Disneyland's ever done. So, all right, let's get into the Mandalorian. This show, well, I don't have to talk about the show. I don't have to talk about the show. Like the show, we all know about the Mandalorian. It's great. It's fantastic. It's an absolute geek fest for us Star Wars fans. It's something different for a lot of what we have gotten, over the years as Star Wars fans. And kind of touching on what I was talking about earlier, it's the first time the Mandalorian culture or characters have taken the spotlight, which is a huge deal. And if I haven't said it on this channel, I'm sure you've heard me talk about it before. The Mandalorian group, like culture, and when I talk about group, I mean like you have the Mandalorians, you have the Jedi Order, you have the Sith, you have you have the Pikes, you have all these different groups of Star Wars, right? Spice Runners, like all that stuff. The Mandalorians are my favorite, like point blank favorite, no question. I love Mandalorians. I love the culture. I love the ideals. I love the characters. It's just such a unique world. And the Clone Wars obviously does an incredible job of touching on that. And it carries over into Star Wars Rebels. But we had never seen it in live action before The Mandalorian. And what Jon Favreau has been able to do alongside Dave Filoni is completely open the doors to not just the larger Star Wars audience, but just audiences in general about this like side of Star Wars. It truly is the Wild West of Star Wars. Like it's the Wild West in the best way possible, but it's also a combination of kind of like a Native American in Star Wars as well. And sorry, the wife texted me. I had to make sure there was nothing wrong. There's just so many great connections to points in our history that are rarely touched on. And they're bringing all of that over into the Star Wars galaxy. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I love the first two seasons of The Mandalorian. I think what it has done so far is fantastic. But I'm telling you right now, season 3 is everything I've wanted from this show. And we have not even seen it yet. The trailer, to me, is showing me that everything to this point, all 16 episodes, season 1, season 2, it was all for this. Like all of that happened for this. Like those episodes walked so season 3 can run, because we're finally diving into not just the deepness of the Mandalorian culture, right? We got it in season 2 with Bo-Katan and the armor has been in it for 2 seasons, obviously. And we've gotten a little bit from her and kind of touching on, this cult side of things. But season 3 is fully going to embrace the Mandalorian culture. And Boba Fett did a little bit as well. Not a lot, but a little bit in the episodes that he was in. But the reason why I'm saying that season 3 is doing that, because we're finally going to Mandalore. Like we've seen it in the Clone Wars. We've seen it in Rebels in animation form. We've never seen it in live action. I think Gordon might have said it earlier. I want to make sure I bring it up. I believe this will be the first time we've seen Mandalore in live action. It is. It is. We've never seen it in live action. And the possibilities that this story has, now that we've touched on, like, Din has met Ahsoka, right? He's done the bounty hunting business. He and Grogu are kicking it. They're doing their thing. Boba Fett, all these characters, all these things that Din has done up to this point. It has all been, it's all been for this. Like, and they've done it in a couple of, like, because look, he was a bounty hunter in the first season. He was doing jobs while also protecting Grogu, and like, so we were just getting started with the character. The second season touched on it a little bit more when Bo-Katan came into it in the Darksaber, and we have the Empire coming into it as well, or what's left of the Empire anyway, I should say. And Maddie he's hitting it exactly where I kind of want to go. It's all been building towards this Mandalorian war. That's where we're going. I don't know if it's going to happen this season. It could, but it couldn't happen until now for a couple different reasons. One, Din was brought up in essentially what can be considered a cult. And it took him 2 seasons of Mandalorian and 1 episode of Boba Fett to completely let go of all that. Just to leave it behind, understand where he stands in all of this. Bo-Katan helped him open his eyes to kind of where he stood, right? We had that scene of, well, it didn't goes, you took your helmet off. You're not a true Mandalorian. And then she flips the script, basically says, no, Mandalorians take their helmets off. You live in a cult is essentially what she told him. But it still took him a little time, right? Because he grew up in all of that. We're building towards, and I want to bring up, I don't know if I have the image. Let me see. From the trailer. I think it's this one. It's not a good shot, though. Is it this one? No. We're building towards an entire cast of Mandalorians, essentially. Fighting it out, duking it out, taking sides. The fight not just for the Darksaber, but for the claim of Mandalore, the throne, if you will, because we've seen it in the Clone Wars. There is an actual throne. I'll just go ahead and bring this up so everyone can see it. But this is the shot that I'm talking about in the trailer. It's not a great shot, but I'll show it anyway. If it shows, I don't know if it's going to show. My Wi-Fi is kicking out now all of a sudden. That shot, where we have all of these different types of Mandalorians in the same shot. That's going to be one of a dozen, multiple dozens different scenes in the season of all of these characters coming together and taking sides, duking it out, fighting, whatever it may be. I wish I had a clearer shot. I mean, you could see one right here too. Here's a super leaked version of it, but just look at the different types of Mandalorians we're going to be getting. It's pretty incredible that we're going to be getting this on a TV screen, and I am bummed that we're not seeing it on a movie screen, but that doesn't mean that we can't get a Mandalorian type film in the future. I just think that everything to this point in the Mandalorian's been leading exactly to this. Every character he's met, every mission he's done, every planet he's visited, every mistake he's made, it's leading directly towards. And Maddie said it. Jared saying, "What's up, Jared?" A Mandalorian Civil War. That's 100% what's happening. It's 100% what's happening. Again, I don't know if it's happening this season or season 4 because we know that's coming already. But it's 100,000% what's going to be happening. We're going to see an all-out Mandalorian Civil War, and I cannot wait for it because, like I said up top, Mandalorians are my favorite. They are my favorite, and I do think it ends with Din on the throne. I think that's probably what's going to happen. I think he and Bo-Katan are probably going to duke it out, but I think that Bo-Katan is probably going to side with him eventually, and essentially, just accept the fact that he's quote unquote the chosen one. That's not the terminology they use, but that's what I'm using. I think that it's going to be the Armorer and her cult up against Din, Bo-Katan, and whatever Mandalorians are left. I don't think there's a lot left. We know that after the Great Mandalorian Purge, that a lot of them, weren't a part of it anymore. They were either killed or they hid and disappeared. Obviously, from season 1 of Mando, we saw the Armorer and her crew, and then we saw them again in Boba Fett, when he fought him. I'm forgetting the name. I apologize. I played by Jon Favreau. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name. I'm blanking on his name all of a sudden. Someone in the chat can correct me. I'm sure someone will say it. But yeah, I just think that's where it's headed. I think that's where it's headed. Gordon, I don't know if Paz Vizsla. Thank you. Vizsla. Thank you. Andy, that's you. Andy, interesting. You think Grogu's the next one to take up the throne? So okay, Andy, I can see Grogu being the next Mandalorian Jedi. Yes. But you think that he's going to take the throne? I guess technically that has to be the case if he takes up the Darksaber, right? That would be interesting. That would be very interesting. I'm intrigued by that. But yes, Paz Vizsla is the guy that I was talking about. Thank you, Gordon. I don't know. I don't know if I mean, I'm not against Grogu taking the throne, but I think Din on the throne with Grogu by his side makes more sense to me. Personally. And I think it might be a case of like, so in all these decades and hundreds of years of Mandalorians being alive and operating, their ways clearly haven't worked, right? It happened before with Bo-Katan when she took the Darksaber, it just didn't line up right. It's happened before that. It just, that's the way that the Mandalorians roll. It just seems to be the most toxic group of them all. So their way hasn't worked where a Mandalorian's on the throne as the Mandalore with the Darksaber. What if it comes to a fact of like, no, we need to change our ways. If we're going to survive, we need to change our ways. What if the person sitting on the throne doesn't technically need the Darksaber? So in that case, Din can be the quote unquote Mandalore, right? The leader with Din by his side holding the Darksaber. You know, I think at this point, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, and I'm not saying I even want this to happen, but it's been shown enough in Star Wars canon for us who read the comics and the books and know enough about it that no matter what the Mandalorians do, it seems like they always fail. Like there's always something happening. They're either fighting with each other or they get destroyed, excuse me. There's some kind of ruse, like something is always happening. So maybe it gets to a point of them having to change the way they do things to survive. I don't know. It's just me throwing out ideas, kind of talking it out with you guys. But Andy, I'm not against it. I'm not against Grogu, you know, being the next Tar Vizsla, which I would love to see Tar Vizsla on screen one day, whether that be animation or live action. I would love to see that on screen so badly. See, Maddie, I like Din being on the throne, but I feel like Din will make a sacrifice to bring the clans together as one. That's possible. I think his character has a long way to go if that's the case. And then Sabine takes the throne as she should have done. Maybe, possible. We are getting Sabine and Ahsoka, which we're going to talk about here in a sec. So we'll see. There's a lot of possibilities, but either way, we're being engulfed with Mandalorian culture, and I love it. I love it. I can't wait to see it. It's gonna blow my mind. It's just gonna blow my mind. So let's move along and let's talk about the show that I cannot wait to talk about. This is Ahsoka. Ahsoka. I mean, all of you know how I love Ahsoka. I mean, she's sitting right back there, and right over there. And I have a ray falling over. She's sitting somewhere else, but I don't know where she went. Oh wait, she's sitting right there. Yeah, she's in a box still. I love Ahsoka. I just think that the character is so rich. And I think I said this on Twitter last week. Do we see too much of the character? I can agree with that. But the character's been so well done that I don't care. Like, give me her and everything. Just flutter her and everything. I don't care. More Ahsoka, the better at this point. But when it comes to the show, as Star Wars animation fans, it leaves us with some very exciting things. Obviously, Star Wars Rebels sequel. It seems like the route that they're going at the moment. There's going to be different things that happen, I'm sure. You know, we've heard of some things that could possibly be happening. All stuff that's not confirmed or, you know, just rumors, people probably starting things. But whatever the case may be, we know this for a fact. Sabine is in the show and she's co-leading. She is co-leading alongside Ahsoka. Hera is in it as well as the Ghost Ship, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead. There's 2 Star Wars Rebels characters. Chopper, those who got to see the trailer at Celebration, which I have not watched yet. I have not watched the leaked trailer of it. I believe Chopper was in the trailer. I could be wrong. I don't know. I have not seen the trailer, but I'm pretty sure Chopper was in it. And then I don't think it's been confirmed by Star Wars, but it's been confirmed by other trades. Ezra and Thrawn will also be in the show, which obviously by the end of Star Wars Rebels, we know that they went off in the distance and disappeared. Chopper was in the trailer, but he was on stage. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do remember seeing Chopper on stage. So yes, that makes sense. Thank you, Andy, for the reminder. Thank you. Gordon's. I don't think Zeb will be in it right now. No. And when it comes to Zeb, as much as I want to see him in live action, to be quite honest, I think his story's finished. He went to go restart his race. He and Callus are off in deep space somewhere, right? They had to take an incredibly rigorous journey to get there through that super secret passageway to get to a planet that was suitable for him. And he went to go restart his racing culture, his people. So for me, his story is over. Like, of course, he can find a way back into it, and that'd be really cool. I'd be all down for it. But at the moment, I think his story's kind of wrapped up. So, okay, so back to it. So we have Ahsoka, we have Sabine, we have Hera, we have Chopper. Not officially confirmed, but 99.9% chance tells me that Ezra and Thrawn will also be in the show. Star Wars Rebels. And I love it. And I love it. Because it's exactly what we want. And it's funny, 4 years ago, maybe, by the time Rebels ended. I think it was 4 years ago by now. We never, in our wildest dreams, thought that the Star Wars Rebels sequel, the eventual sequel, would be live action. How cool is that? That's so cool. Of course, I would love to see the animation sequel with the voice actors back, but how can we argue with seeing these characters in live action? I'm telling you right now, I'm going to lose it when I see Sabine in live action. Not only that, but because when we were at Star Wars Celebration in May, seeing Rosario Dawson and Natasha Bordozzi on stage together lit up my life. So they do that whole Star Wars Celebration live where they get to interview everybody. And on that day, which I believe was a Saturday, I stood at that stage for quite a while with Gabby and Brian, and we watched people get interviewed. And we got to see Rosario Dawson and Natasha Bordozzi get interviewed. And their chemistry together is fantastic. I cannot wait to see them as Ahsoka and Sabine together on screen, co-leading this show. Of course, it's going to be focused on Ahsoka maybe a little bit more than Sabine, but she's going to be along for the ride just as long. Because remember, Sabine is not with Hera at the end of Rebels. She's with Ahsoka. And the end of Rebels takes place after Return of the Jedi. When does this take place? After Return of the Jedi. So, for at the moment, we know that Sabine and Ahsoka are together, finding a way to get to Ezra and Thrawn. That is the whole goal. And I can't wait to see it because it's going to be awesome. I think they're going fully into wild space, deep space, whatever you want to call it, the unknown regions. I think we're going to encounter some really, really interesting stuff. I think Ahsoka's going to have to use her sabers quite a bit. I would really love to see her in the white cloak with the white staff. I don't know if we're getting it, but I would love to see it. I think it would be so cool in live action. Ahsoka the White, they keep calling her because of Gandalf. And Maddie, thank you for bringing that up. The flashbacks with Hayden Christensen, right? There was those rumors going around. I'm not going to say anything about the rumors because I don't want people, who may not want to know anything. But there's some very interesting rumors going around about all that stuff. I definitely think we're going to be getting flashbacks to Clone Wars with young Ahsoka and young Anakin. Maybe some visions between Vader and Ahsoka. But it's going to be emotional. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be emotional. Andy, I think we'll get both. Flashbacks and Force Ghost. I do think we'll see Anakin Skywalker Force Ghost. Because obviously at the end of Return of the Jedi, he turns into a Force Ghost. And there is no effing way he didn't find his way to Ahsoka. I'm sorry. There is no effing way he didn't find his way to Ahsoka if he's a Force Ghost. So yes, we're 1000% going to be getting a Force Ghost Anakin with Ahsoka. But I do think we're going to be getting a flashback in some form. We asked for it in Obi-Wan, right? With Obi and Anakin. We got that training sequence between the two of them. I do think that we're going to be getting some type of flashback between young Ahsoka and a Anakin Skywalker. That's my hope anyway. But either way, it's the thing. I'll say this, and I don't know where it would rank. In all of media, content we're getting, film and television, it would probably rank in my top 5 most anticipated of anything. That's among some of the movies I have. It would be up there as high as any of them. And it's mainly because I'm a Star Wars fan. Like, I just love it. But Ahsoka's one of, if not my favorite character. Like, I am borderline on the verge of saying that she's my all-time favorite Star Wars character. Call me crazy. But I'm very close to getting there. I think what they do with her is brilliant. That's just me. And this show could even add to that. Maddie, Ahsoka, Anakin, Luke scene. I would love that. I don't know if it's happening. I mean, after Boba Fett, of that whole sequence of Ahsoka telling him, "You're so much like your father," which just pulls at the heartstrings. Like, are you joking me? I wouldn't put it past them. They can do some very, very cool things with this show if they want to. They don't have to, but if they want to, because Ahsoka is the binding piece between all of the Skywalkers. Let's not forget, she also talked to Rey in The Rise of Skywalker. Whether we want to say that she's a Skywalker or not, that's fine. That's fine. That's an argument to be made, and that's fine. But she was there talking to Rey. I'm intrigued at the idea that she was around in some capacity with Ben. Don't know. But she's kind of a binding piece between the Skywalker family. I mean, between the whole galaxy, let's be honest. She's been around forever. And she's been in everything. And I love it. That's just me. So, that's just me. Yeah, I can't wait for this. Gordon, I'm not going to go too much into that just because I don't want others I don't want to ruin anything for anybody. It would be awesome to see Ashley Eckstein as an Ahsoka. It would be incredible. And I have no doubt that she can do it. But I also understand them not doing it, which is totally fine. It's the same reason why they went with the Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. They could have easily gone with Ashley. It fits a little bit better. And I love Ashley. Like, she brought this character to life, but it just fits a little bit better this way. Maddie, I only say that because Filoni said he shot scenes he's been thinking about for years, so maybe, just maybe. Yeah, no, I mean, you're not wrong, dude. Like I said, they can do a lot with this. They can do a lot with this series if they choose to. There are a ton of possibilities. Anakin, Ahsoka, and Luke. Force Ghost Anakin and Ahsoka. Flashbacks with Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka. Rex. Where is Rex? We haven't talked about Rex at all. Okay, chat, how about that? Is Rex showing up? Do you think Rex is showing up? And I'll say present day. Do you think Rex is around present day showing up in this show? We know he's around because he was confirmed to be in the fight between the Rebels and the Empire and Return of the Jedi. But do we think Rex is showing up? Because I'll be honest, I'll lose my mind just as much seeing Rex as I would Sabine. I would love to see Rex. It'd be incredible. Okay, so Andy says for sure. I think I'm with you. I don't know how, and I don't know if he's with them, but I think it would be brilliant to see Rex in live action. We just saw Tamira Morrison as a hobo cloned in Obi-Wan. Who say it ain't Return as Rex? How cool! Like, okay, just sidebar real quick. How cool is it to be Tamira Morrison at this point? Because they're doing all of these shows, and he gets to play Boba Fett. He gets to play clones that include random clones and Rex. Like, this dude's living his dream. He gets to play multiple characters all because they decided to clone a character he was playing in Attack of the Clones. So cool. So cool. But yeah, I would love to see, the Rebels version of Rex, the bald head with the big gray beard. Give that to me. I would love with the whole get up he has, right? With his chest plate and everything. I would love it. That'd be so cool. Yeah, Curtis Hobo clone. I termed it here. I can talk about Ahsoka for hours, but I'm going to have to wrap up the Ahsoka conversation. I could legit sit here and talk about Ahsoka for as long as you guys want me to, or as long as you want to. Let's go ahead and move on to the last Star Wars project, which is the most unknown at the moment, Skeleton Crew. And even though it's unknown, this does not mean you should not be excited. This show's going to rock. Like, I'm going to say it right now. It's going to rock. And there's a couple different reasons why. One, let me take a drink real quick. Hold on. Guys, let's just give it up again for Green Brier Distillery. This is amazing. Nelson Brothers Reserve Bourbon. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So good. Okay. Let's get into Skeleton Crew. Maddie, you stole it from me. Goonies in space. I think I said it at the top of the show, actually. Goonies in space. I don't need to say anything else. I really don't. Well, I could say this. Jon Watts. Jon Watts. Absolutely mic dropped a Spider-Man trilogy for the MCU, excuse me. Crushed it with No Way Home, Far From Home, and Homecoming. Took the Spider-Man character to a level that we weren't sure we were ever going to see. And in my opinion, gave us the truest and best Spider-Man we have to this day. Just my opinion. No shame if you are a Garfield fan, which I am a massive Garfield fan, or a Maguire fan. But also, if you have not seen it, he also did a little movie called Cop Car with Kevin Bacon a number of years ago before he got the Spider-Man trilogy. And it's incredible. Again, dealing with young adolescents. Two young kids who steal a cop car. My dogs are comfortable if you heard that. Jon Watts is the perfect guy to bring this kind of series to life. And what's cool about it is that it wasn't like something that was developed and they brought Jon Watts on board. It's his idea. He created it with his partner on the set of the Spider-Man movies and pitched it to Jon Favreau on the set of the Spider-Man movies. Because Jon Favreau obviously plays Happy Hogan. And like, what a great way to be like, hey, I got a Star Wars idea. Okay, let's hear it. Boom. Skeleton Crew. And then you get someone like Jude Law to play the adult in the series. Jude Law in Star Wars? Are you joking me? It's so cool. Like, he's one of the guys, and I never would have pulled his name, but now that I'm thinking of it, he is absolutely one of the people that I would love and cannot wait to see in the Star Wars galaxy. He's perfect. He's perfect. I don't know what he's playing, who he's playing. It's all new characters. We know the story of like these young kids getting lost in space and him essentially trying to save them / rescue them, bring them back home. And they come across some interesting foes, right? That's all I need to know. Like I don't need to know anything else. Jude Law in a Star Wars series that is pretty much the Goonies in space, created by Jon Watts. Like, what is not to love? And also, as much as I love things like Mando and Ahsoka, Bad Batch, they're all things that we're extremely familiar with. This is so different and unique compared to other Star Wars properties we're getting. Other Star Wars projects, excuse me. This is so left field to other things that are happening in the Star Wars galaxy currently. And that's what I want. Like, as much as I want season 3 of The Mandalorian, I want Star Wars to take chances. I want Star Wars to allow creators to create what they want. And that is what the movies have had such an issue with. Well, I mean, they haven't really had an issue because they're not even taking a chance. First of all, they're not even taking the opportunity to let people to do those types of movies. But Jon Favreau, being the one who has essentially given the keys to the Star Wars TV kingdom, alongside Filoni, are allowing creators to do what they want. It's not just showing in this idea from Jon Watts with the Skeleton Crew, but it has shown throughout the seasons of Boba Fett and Mandalorian so far. Directors come in and direct the way that they want. Some things work, some things don't. But it's clear that they are allowed to be creative. And that is the best part about it. That is why George Lucas created Star Wars. That's why he took the leap into making Star Wars. And that is why nobody believed in him, because it was so far out there and he had to prove them wrong. And it almost feels like Lucasfilm, to a point, has kind of taken that away from people, right? Like, they've taken a step back and tried to essentially put people on puppet strings when it comes to the movies anyway. To an extent, there was no plan for the sequel trilogy. We've had these conversations. But when it comes to the television side, it's clear they're allowing creators to do what they want. Now, there's a fine line, of course, especially if you're trying to tell like a major story and connect all the dots. But it's very apparent to me that, especially with the announcement of this series, that they're allowing people to come in, and if the idea is good, make these series, make these stories. You know, they're like, and I'm using this reference because I just watched The Fabelmans today with Steven Spielberg. It's like people making their backyard stories, right? These directors and creators grew up directing and creating, coming up with ideas and stories in their backyard or in their room. And it's almost like they're now being able to take those and make them come true, right? Andy, thank you. I mean, it totally slipped my mind, but Andor is the perfect example. You're right. Correct. Someone had an idea, and Tony Scott came in. I think it's Tony Scott, right? I'm blank. It's one of the Scott brothers. It's Tony Scott. Tony Gilroy. Tony Gilroy, excuse me. Tony Gilroy. I beat you to the punch. Tony Gilroy says, I got this idea. And to me, Andor is basically like a spy espionage thriller that he just threw Star Wars over the top of. It feels like he created a story that had nothing to do with Star Wars, but he found a way to make it Star Wars. And he had directors come in and say, all right, here's kind of where the story's headed. You do what you need to. Ray, come here. Drop it. Freaking dog is eating something. Tony Scott doing Star Wars would be sick, Matty. You're right. I think that's why I said his name. So that that's what I want from future Star Wars, and I'm sure I'll do a show on that in the future. But I just love the fact that Favreau and Watts were on set of Spider-Man, just randomly talking, and Favreau basically just goes, "Let's make it. Let's do it." That gives me high hopes. That gives me like a really good vote of confidence for the future of Star Wars, if that's the route they're going to go. And we're not seeing it yet, obviously, but Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie could be in that vein, right? I would really love Patty Jenkinson's Rogue One if it actually does happen to be in that vein, but it's going to be a little bit more connected than I think we realize. Not a bad thing. Again, not a bad thing. Things can be connected. They don't have to be all out there. And just because his movie is out, if Rian Johnson's movies ever get made, which at this point, I don't know if they will, I can't wait for them because they're going to be so out there and different compared to anything in Star Wars. It's what I want from Star Wars. And that's why I think The Mandalorian is doing so freaking well, is because it's so different. It's so new. And I think that's what Lucasfilm has been doing for so long, is making Star Wars movies for Star Wars fans rather than making Star Wars movies for movie fans. The Mandalorian has attracted how many non-Star Wars fans to the franchise because it does it well and it's different. Why not just continue that? Just continue to do that. That's all I want. And the Skeleton Crew is a prime example of that. It's just different, unique, interesting. We haven't even seen a trailer from it, and I'm all kinds of excited for it. I just think it's going to be a load of fun. Again, the Goonies in space with Jude Law. Can't beat it. Cannot beat it. The dogs are getting up now, so I'm going to have to wrap the show up. Before I do so, I would like to give a big shout out to all of you guys. I really, really appreciate you guys hanging in with me, doing this live, hanging in the chat, talking this out. I love doing this. I really do. Some people aren't able to talk by themselves for an hour. I enjoy sitting here chatting it up with you guys, giving my opinions, whether they're good or bad, whether my pronunciations are right or wrong. Just giving my opinions on stuff. I love it. Andy, I have been watching Willow, and it's fantastic. I apologize for bumping the table, but it's great. It is really, really good. Willow is good. Go watch Willow if you have not given Willow a chance. I'm having a blast with the show. I think they have taken the property and enhanced the first movie and made it a very viable property. I really do. I would love to see more stories in this universe. I have no doubt that they can do multiple seasons of this show, but I hope they don't stop doing them. I think they've created some really interesting, rich characters and a world that can extend multiple seasons. And I'll probably do like a season recap on here, if not on Apocalypse or POV. But yeah, I watch it every Wednesday. I really enjoy it. So thank you for bringing that up. But yes, before I get out of here, I got to give a big shout out to Green Brier Distillery, the Nelson Brothers. Absolutely fantastic stuff. I cannot thank them enough for this opportunity on showcasing their brand on my channel. It's been such a cool thing for me to do. The first that I've been able to do. Again, if I didn't mention it up top, I did an unboxing video on their whiskey. And I'll go ahead and bring it up. I won't bring it up. I did an unboxing video of the care package they sent me a few weeks ago, and it was so much fun. I was gifted some incredible stuff. A couple t-shirts, notepads, whiskey, 2 awesome brewmates, which if you don't know what a brewmate is, it's basically a Yeti or a Hydro Flask, but this is even cooler. This is a whiskey version. Super cool. It's got their logo and everything on it. Probably my favorite thing I was gifted. But yeah, Nelson Brothers Reserve Bourbon. Highly, highly recommend checking this out, guys. I cannot recommend this enough. I promise you. You will not be disappointed. It's a little bit more of a rye sensation. So if you're not much of a rye fan, you've been warned. There's a little bit of a bite, but it's a very good bite. I mentioned the flavors throughout the show. It's very sweet. It's very smoky, but it's got some spice to it. And it's awesome. It is awesome. And I'll definitely be talking about them again because I mentioned they gifted me not just this, but they also gifted me their sour mash, which I will be doing on the next episode of this. And I'm very interested in trying that because I don't even know the last time or if I've ever had a sour mash, but I definitely don't have one on my shelf. So I'm very excited to check it out and see what it's all about. So again, to Stephanie specifically, who I talked to at the Green Brier Distillery, but to the entire company, to the Nelson brothers for this opportunity. I cannot thank you guys enough. Hopefully we get to continue working in the future, doing some more cool things like this, because it's been a blast for me. I've really, really enjoyed it. So thank you. But yeah, that's going to wrap up my 2023 preview, guys. Look, big year ahead of us for Star Wars. Massive year. So much content is headed our way. I haven't even talked about Jedi Survivor. Haven't talked about books and comics, which I'm so behind on, by the way. So behind on. Just when it comes to TV alone, 4 shows. That is, let's say that Bad Batch is 14 episodes. You get 8 episodes from Mandalorian, which is 22. You get 8 episodes from Ahsoka, which is 30. And you get 8 episodes from Skeleton Crew, which is 38. 38 episodes of Star Wars next year, guys. And just 50 plus weeks throughout the year. That's a lot. That is a lot of Star Wars, and I love it. I love it. Can't wait to talk about it more here. Can't wait to talk about more on the other shows, other channels. Discord. If you have not checked it out, I'm a part of 2 Discords. The Certain Point of View Discord, obviously. Over on POV, you have to join our Patreon to do so. It's $1 a month, but we have the best community in the business. I'm telling you, our community rocks. Some great conversations happening over there on everything: film, TV, sports, food, just random conversations happening with really, really good people. Go and check that out. But also we have one on Apocalypse as well. We opened one up a few weeks ago, and that one's free. Andy, stop it. Stop it. The View Crew is amazing. We also have one on Apocalypse as well. My buddies on Apocalypse, Jacob, Gio, and Keith, had never used it before, so it's very new to them. They're getting in the swing of things, and they love it. But we also have had some really, really good people join that as well. So I would implore you to join those so we can continue this conversation. I would love to continue this conversation on Discord with you guys on a constant basis. I really would. Gordon, do we know when the Acolyte is supposed to come out? 2024. It's filming right now, so expect 23 to be a full-on editing thing. I would say spring of 24 is probably when we will see the Acolyte. If not, depending on how long filming takes, it might be fall of 24. But it's no matter what, it's 2024, which we'll get to that show eventually because that show's going to rock. So yeah, again, guys, I appreciate you all. I cannot thank you guys enough for joining me tonight specifically, but also just throughout the journey. I'm looking forward to what 23 has in store for us. Let's talk more Star Wars. Go and follow me on Twitter, on TikTok. I'm talking not just Star Wars, but I'm doing this like little movie news clips, which I'm really enjoying doing. It's all at Qui-Gon Jake, 2 N's, because someone else took it before I did. But of course, over on Apocalypse Movies on YouTube and Twitter, as well as A Certain Point of View on YouTube and Twitter. And both of those also have TikToks that we're clipping stuff out on. I think I've linked the YouTube channel specifically in the description. If you're not subscribed, I highly recommend subscribing. And of course, subscribe here. Like, I would love for you to like this. Thumbs up. Or a thumbs down if you feel like you want a thumbs down it. Just if you want to be that person tonight. And yeah, again, can't thank you guys enough. It's been a blast previewing everything Star Wars in 2023. And Nelson Brothers Reserve Bourbon. Thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Have a great weekend. Happy New Year, everyone. Stay safe. Party hard, but party safe. Have a blast. And we'll see everyone in 2023. So again, thank you, and may the force be with you.